very good day to you and welcome to Housing TV News at the top of the hour, coming to you from our studios here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Dorcas Chia. Our top stories. President Tinubu nominates Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. Federal government bans cash tax collection to roadblocks. Abuja court approves contempt notice against the FCT minister. On the foreign scene, oil prices rise 1% amid Middle East tensions. And now the news in detail. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has nominated Taiwo Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance, replacing Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite. Uzoka-Anite has been redeployed to the Ministry of Budget and National Planning as Minister of State. The nomination was sent to the Senate for confirmation, according to a statement by presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga. Oyedele, an economics and tax expert from Ondo State, previously chaired the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. He is a former PricewaterhouseCoopers fiscal policy partner and currently serves as a professor at Babcock University. In another development, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has once again directed the immediate release of approved funds for the maintenance of Nigeria's space assets and the implementation of the revised 25-year National State Policy Roadmap. At the National Space Council meeting in Abuja, Tinubu said Nigeria must compete in the fast-growing global space economy, projected to hit $1 trillion by 2040. He stressed that space investment would support agriculture, security, disaster monitoring, communications, and the digital economy. The Council also approved 4 new satellites, enforcement of space regulations, and the development of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Space Center in Ekpe to boost local launch capacity.
I hereby also direct that the course of the implementation of the approved revised 25-year roadmap for the implementation of the National Space Policy be forwarded to the Federal Executive Council for consideration and approval. We must build a program that serves the farmer in the field, the teacher in the classroom, the entrepreneur in the market, the soldier on duty, the researcher in the laboratory, and the policymaker who must plan with evidence rather than guesswork. This is how a nation turns altitude into advantage. Space technology remains the foundation for cybersecurity and a vibrant digital economy. The space economy is rapidly growing and is projected to exceed $1 trillion by 2040. When we invest in space, we are not funding a distant dream. We are funding precision in agriculture and security in our borders. We are funding early warning systems against floods and fires, smarter cities, safer skies, stronger communications, and a digital economy that can compete with the best in the world. We are funding the confidence of a nation that refuses to be trapped by the limits of yesterday.
Another resolution passed by the Council is to set up a working group of space experts to review the 25 years space program roadmap of Nigeria.
Some months back, the president already approved 4 new satellites for us to launch, and we are in the procurement process to ensure that these satellites are launched within the shortest possible time. 3 of them are optical, Earth observation, and 1 is synthetic aperture radar, which can see during the day and night time. More importantly for our economic zone and for national security.
And now, Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Asule has commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for reappointing Ahmed Abubakar Odi as Commandant General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps for another 5-year term. Audi, first appointed in 2021, began his renewed tenure on February 27th. Governor Sule described the reappointment as a testament to Audi's leadership and commitment to strengthen Nigeria's internal security, adding that his continued stewardship would consolidate ongoing reforms within the Corps. The federal government has approved a transition period for implementing direct payment by oil and gas contractors into the Federation account under Executive Order 9 of 2026. The decision endorsed by governors aimed to improve petroleum revenue management, boost transparency, and protect public funds. Finance Minister Wale Edun said the transition would prevent disruption to existing contracts and financing arrangements while safeguarding investor confidence. Under the order, revenues from profit oil, royalty oil, and tax oil will be paid directly into the Federation account. A technical subcommittee has been set up to develop detailed guidelines before full implementation. Still on financial matters, the federal government has prohibited tax collection in cash and barred revenue agencies from mounting roadblocks for enforcement under new tax regulations. Announcing the development in Abuja, Joint Revenue Board Executive Secretary Olusegun Adesokan said the measures aim to promote transparency and digital compliance, especially in the informal sector. Businesses with annual turnover of 12 million naira and above are exempt, while eligible informal businesses will pay 1% of turnover. The reforms follow the tax laws signed by President Tinubu in 2025 and took effect from January 2026. We'll now take a pause here, and up next are news stories from the build sector. Do stay with us.
Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts. On Facebook, Housing TV Africa. On Twitter, Housing TV Africa. Instagram, Housing TV Africa.
Welcome back. Glad to have you join us in Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Now to the build sector. An Abuja High Court has authorized serving a contempt notice on FCT Minister Nyesom Wike after a property developer, Michael's Grit Ventures Limited, claimed demolition at a disputed Maitama site violated a standing court injunction. The court allowed the notice to be published in major newspapers, warning the minister could face sanctions for non-compliance. The alleged demolition occurred on 24 February 2026, despite an injunction obtained on 10 February 2026. The next hearing is set for 9 March 2026, highlighting tensions between government enforcement and private property rights. The Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers has advised the government against using rent control to address Nigeria's housing affordability challenges. The institution argued that limiting rental prices without tackling the underlying housing supply deficit, estimated at over 17 million units, would distort the market and discourage private investment. Rising construction costs, inflation, and inefficient land systems are driving the affordability gap. Nigerian Institute of Estate Surveyors and Valuers recommends structural reforms instead, including accelerating housing supply, improving land administration, expanding infrastructure, enhancing mortgage access, and strengthening public-private partnerships. The body emphasized that regulatory caps on rent may worsen long-term supply shortages, while systemic reforms offer a sustainable solution to Nigeria's housing crisis. And over to the foreign scene. Oil prices climbed 1% on March 4, 2026, as the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran disrupted supplies in the Middle East, though gains slowed after President Trump suggested U.S. naval escorts for vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Brent and WTI crude prices climbed to multi-month highs, driven by geopolitical tensions in Iran and production cuts in Iraq. U.S. measures including naval escorts and trade insurance were announced, but will take time to affect markets. Meanwhile, countries like India, Indonesia, and China are seeking alternative oil sources, even as rising U.S. inventories provide limited relief. Analysts warn that near-term oil prices will remain sensitive to export disruptions, tanker incidents, naval activity, and Iran's actions. And now, the United States Senate has advanced a bipartisan housing reform bill that introduces a temporary ban on issuing a central bank digital currency until December 31st, 2030. The measure, passed in an 84-6 procedural vote, would prevent the Federal Reserve from creating a digital dollar directly or through intermediaries. However, private dollar-backed stablecoins would still be allowed. Backed by the White House, the provision reflects concerns over privacy and government control, even as other countries continue developing or launching their own CBDCs. And that's the much we can take on Housing TV News at the top of the hour. But before we go, a recap of stories that made the headlines. Tinubu nominates Oyedele as Minister of State for Finance. Federal government bans cash tax collections and roadblock. Abuja court approves contempt notice against FCT minister. On the foreign scene, oil prices rise 1% amidst middle extensions. And for more news in the housing sector, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa. You can follow us on all our social media platforms and download the Housing TV mobile app on your Google Play Store and Apple Store. Many thanks for watching. I am Dorcas Chia. Bye for now.